Hello and welcome to another Forge Alliance replay. We have Extro on the bottom of this island and Arson at the top. Now this replay is of a game that was played a little while ago, as initially I had some problems recording, so both players are significantly better than they were back then, or at least that's very much the case for Arson. Extro is already probably at a point where improvements come slow. He's already fairly good. Now, Extro's gone for an initial build, fairly standard, factory, mass, 2 power. The moment the factory is finished, it started pumping out units. And Arson has done very much the same. Unfortunately, he positioned the mass pump, was positioned in such a way that Arson had to do a bit of a long walk before he could begin there. So that's carved a little bit of time out of his initial build, so that might hurt later game. Both have started engineers up, and these first few minutes I imagine their playstyles will be very similar. Get some engineers out, get some additional mass pumps going up, power, and also reclaiming. A very important thing to note is that there's quite a lot of mass, and in the case of trees, also energy. With rocks and other inorganic substances, you'll just find mass to reclaim. But these can quite often be a very integral part of your early economy. Now, Extro is generally using his commander to just build up some more power, and he's already got some Mantis Tech 1 assault bots coming out. Now, the interesting thing with the Mantis is they have a generally weaker weapon than comparable Tech 1 assault infantry units of the other races, but they make up for that by having a stripped-down engineering system, which allows them to assist. They can't build things themselves, but they can assist with building. Now, Arson is being a little bit more aggressive than he usually is. He's already got scout units running down this part of the map. Now, you'll find that there won't be that much diversity in the way that each player attacks beyond their own play style in this particular game, because both players have chosen to play the same race. Arson and Extro both playing Cybran. Now, of the two, I would say that Extro has significantly more experience with Cybran, but it's still not his main race. I would say that Extro tends to play the UEF, so we might see some interesting gameplay coming from both of them, really, because neither one will necessarily be able to just jump at the builds and know the ins and outs of the race, so there may be a bit of experimentation going on. Now, Arson has certainly started to spread out more aggressively. He's getting more resources. Extro, he hasn't really been as aggressive in terms of finding out what's happening with Arson. He seems content to just let him do his own thing, and this is definitely true here, where we can see he's going to build a Tech 1 point defense, and he has a Mantis there just to prevent any early incursions. But he doesn't appear to have noticed that Arson has a scout here. Now, if I switch on to Arson's view, you'll see that this scout has radar. It isn't giving him a lot of information, but it is letting him see some things. It's unclear to me at the moment whether he has got the scout in cloak or not. A cloak, the Tech 1 Land Scout for the Cybran doesn't have any weapons, unlike all of the other Land Scouts, which have a very light weapon. But they do make up for that, again, with having the ability to cloak. If they're standing still, they'll be invisible to visual detection. They won't be invisible to radar. So that is a very obvious flaw. But it doesn't look like Extro is feeling particularly worried about that sort of thing, so he hasn't built a radar here. However, this scout, if I'm not mistaken, does have radar, so Extro will now be aware that this scout, Arson scout, was there. He saw it briefly, but long enough to notice, and he sent his attack bots down there to deal with that. But, again, the scout is cloaked, so the bots can't see him. So, it will probably be waiting here. Oh no, the scout had actually moved. But, over here, we see that Arson hasn't really decided to deal with the scout yet, though this engineer may be going up to reclaim it. But Extro should now have seen the majority of Arson's base. He's still got radar coverage for the time being, though that will be gone soon. But he's seen the way that Arson's built up. He's got a naval yard, and he's got 2 land factories. So Extro can start drawing some conclusions from that. That he's likely to face an early land rush, or that he does need to consider naval defences. But Extro has gone for air, and he's producing more scouts. So it looks like he might be using the scouts just to keep a regular handle on what Arson's doing. And information in this game is of paramount importance, as it is in any war, I suppose. Knowing where your enemy are, and more importantly where your enemy aren't, is half the battle won in some cases. Now both Arson and Extro are kind of building out beachheads here, I suppose. Arson, honestly, is building the better ones, because he's using walls. Now these will deflect quite a lot of initial fire, at least from low trajectory attacks. Artillery or missiles would easily bypass that, anything with splash damage as well. Now we see both sides are gathering artillery. Arson has got an overall well made up army. He's got anti-air, some artillery, some scouts. But Extro is going primarily for artillery, so it's clear what he intends to do here. He either intends to keep him from pushing, just by having the artillery sweep a barrage down in front of any approaching infantry, or he's going to try and harass just outside of the range of his point defense. Now, if he does do that, then Extro will be in a much better position, because his artillery will tear these point defense apart. They simply won't have the range to deal with it. And if I'm not mistaken, this may be an early attempt to build a radar. I don't know, but it could be that either Extro is struggling for power, or he's thinking of building a radar station up here and wants to surround it with power. He's also begun work on a navy, or at least a naval yard, but a little bit too late. Though Arson isn't really pressing his advantage. If he can get that frigate down to the bottom quickly, he could very easily just wipe that naval yard out, and in fact take full control of the sea if he played it right. But he seems to be perhaps focusing on his commander at the moment, focusing on this front line. So he's let his navy just kind of sit there for now, which is a shame, because it's much better if you can... Oh, wait, we've got some fighting going on here. Had some fights going on there, only a little, but Extro has decided to go for the push. And as I predicted, his artillery are wrecking Arson's defences. Those point defence can't hit back. And there they go. Most of them are gone. But his army is now coming down, and Extro, he's got 2 point defences, and they will do a lot of damage to this approaching army, but he might be able to... that is, Arson might be able to take out all of these artillery if he's lucky. No, it looks like Arson is backing down. He doesn't want any of that point defense at the moment, so he's leaving that alone. So Arson lost quite a lot there. That was a lot of mass, and we noticed that where the artillery continued to shell the area, it's also destroyed one of the wrecks. So that mass is actually lost from one of those cannons. Now, we see that Arson's got another frigate. He's bringing it down the side. Now this could be good, because frigates do have well, any ship generally has better range than equivalent land units of the same level. But how he's going to use it, I don't know, because these point defense would be a bit of a problem. The artillery does have significant range, but if he decided to pull all of his navy down right now, he could take that naval yard out still, because, oh no, here we are, Extro is actually starting to build something. He's starting to build a sub. Now that would be a very big problem for Arson's initial frigates, because they don't have any sort of submersible defense. They can't target subs. They can target air, and they can target surface structures or units, but they cannot target subs, and that will be a big problem for him. So it really depends on what they do. If Extro gets enough time to build up a few subs down here, then Arson's early advantage with the navy will be completely wasted. He is building another frigate, so maybe he's just hoping to get a little bit more kick behind his units before he commits them. I don't know. But his advantage is very rapidly disappearing now. And Extro is continuing to fortify these areas. Notice that Arson hasn't used any air yet, so Extro isn't really having to use his resources to try and produce anti-air. Now, Arson is going to investigate this island by the looks of it. Now, I can't remember if the civilians on this map are set as enemies or not. I believe they are, in which case they'll return fire. So Arson is about to lose his frigate to a Tech 2 UEF point defense, and all he's done in return is damage. He hasn't even destroyed a Tech 1 power plant. Oh, whilst we were looking at that, Extra decided to make a push, and Arson has had to respond by pulling his entire army up from the front line. He has wiped out the assault, but the assault appears to have managed to take out both a radar and a mass pump. That is quite a large loss for Arson. He's now lost his eyes in the front. Let's just switch over and see what he can see. He can't see much. His frigates do have radar, and that's great, so he can see what's here, but he doesn't know what. He's never been there, so he doesn't know exactly what units of these are, structures they are. And these he remembers from having seen them before. That is, once a structure is revealed, it's assumed to still be there. Structures are non-mobile, but all the units that are there, he can't see. He needs direct radar coverage to see it. And Extra, sensing that Arson's army has moved, because Extra does have radar, has gone for a harass. He's pushing out his arty again. They, again, massively outrange the point defences. And he's just going to push that side, and he could push through. Send another scout across in there. Now, we're starting to see that although both sides have Navy, neither side are using them very actively. Extra, however, is using his air quite actively, and that is proving to be a strong advantage, I imagine, in giving him additional information that he wouldn't otherwise be able to reach with a Tech 1 radar. Now, he doesn't seem to be very active at the moment. His artillery are still, even though they could push. Arson's decided, by the looks of it, to split his forces and try and get some more defences down here. Of course, he's still producing constantly. Arson has a much bigger, infrastructure for producing units. I can't see... He hasn't really built up his mass very much, and there are still mass points unclaimed, whereas Extra has claimed them all. Both do have the capability to produce Tech 2 units, though I don't see any Tech 2 units coming out on Arson's side. Extra, however, has produced his first stealth tank. It's a mobile vehicle that emits a small stealth field, and this is one of the key units for the Cybran army, which no other army gets. The Cybrans can produce mobile stealth field generators, so effectively hide a mobile force. The other teams get things like mobile shield generators, which the Cybran don't have, and all the teams have different strengths and weaknesses depending on your playstyle. The Cybran are very much a high-tech utility army in a way. That's the best way I can think of to describe it. They don't have the raw power that most of the others do, or the raw defensive abilities that the others do, but they do have high-tech structures and units which can give them an edge in unexpected ways if used well. Now, Extra sent his sub up past the frigates. It must have been on an just a move order, and he hasn't responded to the fact the frigates are there. But Extra has been building up gunships for a little while now, and although these frigates do have some anti-air, they're going to find it hard to take out 4 gunships before they themselves are destroyed. It's unlikely they're going to be able to do a significant amount of damage to anything here. And there, a bomber came through, and I think that's it for Arson's navy there. Now, there we are. Extra has also brought up Tech 2 engineering units, and he's starting to upgrade his beachheads. Whereas Arson, as yet, I think he has got a Tech 2 unit coming in now, but it's been very slow off the bat. Extra already has the advantage in that he has Tech 2 point defense, a Cerberus cannon, which has vast range advantages over the Tech 1 point defense. There's not a lot going on. Both have armies and both are willing to stay still. And I think this is going to be a very bad situation for Arson specifically. Arson's strength seems to be in producing large amounts of units. If he doesn't use them, then effectively he has no advantage. Extra is a much more patient player. I suppose you could call him a turtle in that he enjoys building up his defenses, sitting back, building up his economy, his weapons, and then pushing out when he knows the battle is going to go in his favour. So, whereas Arson's advantage over Extro is that his large mobile forces could be a significant danger to Extro's rather weak defenses here. He has 3-point defense and some arty. That's it. Though he now obviously has the Tech 2 defense. Arson could have pushed through much earlier and probably would have won the battle. But giving Extro enough time to tech up, he is putting himself in a great deal of danger. Now, Extro has built tactical missile defense to protect his commander. I noticed that Arson has not done the same, but Extro is building tactical missile launchers here. I'm fairly certain that Extro is going to try and go for an early commander kill by bombarding him with tactical missiles. And he has a mobile missile launcher here as well. I would imagine Extro is aware that Arson is there. Yes, he is. He has an eye on the commander. He knows specifically where the commander is. So this is just a waiting game. If Arson doesn't realize that his commander's in trouble and just leaves him standing there, then this could be a very early win for Extro. We're 15 minutes in at the moment. It does take time to build these missiles, and one missile alone is probably not enough to take him out. So I imagine Extro, if experience has taught me anything, will wait until he's got 2, possibly 3, then launch them at once. No, one is launched. The second one is just built. He's probably just waiting to fire that. The second one's in the air. The first one's coming down. Is Arson going to notice? He's been hit. He has enough time to move. He isn't moving. Here comes the second missile. And there we go. Once again, Extro has gone for the tactical missile rush. Well, I suppose it can't really be called a rush in this situation, but again, preying on the inexperience of Arson there, I feel, that he probably bet that Arson wouldn't necessarily expect that particular tactic, and thus not defend against it. And he seemed confident enough to launch the first missile a few seconds earlier than the second. Had Arson been on the ball, he would have received a warning that his commander had come under attack. He would have been able to see that his commander took a serious hit blow from that. The health bar is generally visible up in the... let me just flip the Extra here, up in the top right. Though you can't see the health here as the game's ended, but this bar would be showing green, full health, yellow, low health, etc. Arson would have had enough time to move. Although those missiles do create splash damage, it's unclear for me whether he would have had enough time to get far enough away not to die. But Extro clearly felt confident that he could launch the missiles one at a time rather than both together. But there we are. It was well played on both teams, and Arson is certainly proving to be a bit of a threat. He's generally very, very aggressive, gets a lot of units out very early on. And I think just a little bit of tweaking with his strategy, and obviously game experience and knowing what to expect, what to prevent, to defend against. And yeah, he will definitely be a strong contender. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed.